Hi, I'm Agnes. Welcome to my eclectic channel. One thing I've never done so far is to sew a garment from A to Z following a pattern. And today I've decided to take the plunge. The pattern I'm going to be using is the Bette pattern. We are now on step number 5, and that is where the lining and the outer shell come together, and the first place they get stitched together is at the neckline. So we're going to do the entire neckline. Actually, it goes all around the front and the back, and we want the two pieces to match well at the shoulders and at the opening of the back. It's all pinned. I am going to take this to my machine and do a stitch them together with, as always, a 1.5 centimeter seam allowance. So I've stitched all around the neckline, and this is a curve, so I need to clip the seam allowance. Unfortunately, that's going to cut through my overhang stitching, but it won't destroy the whole thing. And then this around the neckline, maybe I could have gotten away without this overhang stitching, because this is going to be inside the lining, so it's not going to fray as easily as exposed seam allowance is. The next step, number 6, is a finishing step and really important, and that is to stay stitch the neckline, and they explain what it is. I've watched tutorials and I get confused every time, but essentially this needs to happen. What we need to do is to fold the seam. So you take the entirety of the seam allowance, the 2 layers of the seam allowance, and fold them towards one side. At this point it doesn't matter, because actually I don't know which one is going to be the front and the back. We'll see. And the lining, we'll see how it turns out. But yeah, so fold that towards one side, and then run a line of stitching close to the seam, and this will attach the seam allowance to that one side. And then they say after that press, but I think it's a better idea to press first and then run this line of stitching. What does a stay stitching do? Well, the stay stitching allows the neckline, in this case, to stay put. Like, you don't want this to roll over to where you have the seam allowance showing in the front of the neckline. Stay stitching will allow this to stay put in the back, so you have a neat neckline with the line of stitching being on the back side of the neckline as opposed to in the front. It really helps to press the seam allowance first onto that one side. And then as I feed the fabric through the machine, I'm constantly pulling, I'm pulling the seam apart, not too strongly because we don't want to rip anything, but just making sure that everything is single layer, reasonably taut. And then I'm using the line of, this is the seam stitching, and I'm feeding it through using markers on my presser foot to get those two lines of stitching to be close to each other. This is what we have going on. The bodice, the lining, and where they are attached. And now we want to fold this all along the neckline and press everywhere along the neckline so that we get a nice and sharp neckline all around. And as I'm working my way, pressing around the neckline, I am putting the seam allowance almost in the middle, like right along the neckline, but ever so slightly in the back of the work so that that seam will not show in the front of the neckline. Okay, I'm nowhere near finished. But so far I'm really glad with the finishing. I gradually, I didn't really notice that this was happening, but I've been working on a number of resizing projects and some simple little projects that I undertook on my own on really simple garments, not spending too much on fabric. The nice thing about the resizing projects is that I did not spend anything on fabric. I just made garments that I already owned fit better, which is always a win. And while doing that, what happened was I improved my basic skills. Hopefully I don't discover a major mistake. Gosh, I hope not. I read this pattern several times. So I have a good idea of where this is going. I've also watched a lot of YouTube videos. So all of this is giving me some ideas. There's some pitfalls that so far I don't think I fell into. We shall see. I think this is a great starter pattern, not just because it's free, but also because it's I don't know if it says anywhere that it's for beginners, but I think it's definitely for beginners because it only involves those basic skills, and it is not very complicated. Next time, we finish the bodice and start assembling the skirt. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, give it a like.